Hello and welcome to another episode of The Bookie and the Beano, where we discuss the debits and credits of being an accountant or a bookkeeper in the digital world we operate in today. I'm Kane Munro, owner of Active Outsourcing and Accountancy Online, and with me is Diane Lucas, superstar bookkeeper, consultant, and owner of Direct Management. Di, how are you?
I'm well, thank you, Kane. How's things at your end?
Very, very well. I've not been away as much as you recently. You were obviously at QuickBooks Connect a couple of weeks ago when we chatted last, and since then you've been to the Queenscliff Music Festival.
Yes, Queenscliff is just down the road and across the bay and around the corner by ferry.
Now tell me a little bit more about the Queenscliff Music Festival. I did used to know a little bit more about music than I do now, and I would have known a lot more about Queenscliff back then. So who was on the bill? What's it like down there?
Well, it was interesting. There was a mixture of music. What did we have? I saw Casey Chambers, so that's country rock, so that's new. She's got a bit of a twang to her voice, which some people love and some people hate, so that was an interesting lineup. Joe Camilleri and the Black Sorrows, they were the last thing I saw. There was some orchestral music, other bits and pieces, just a whole mixture of things, but great age group. 40 plus is probably the main group, so I fitted in beautifully there, thank you.
Well, you mentioned a mixture there, and what I want to talk about today is using different software to service your clients, whether you're software agnostic or if there's a benefit to being a software specialist. So you generally specialize in a particular type of software, don't you, in what you do on a day-to-day basis and what your team do?
Yeah, look, I've always been pretty much focused on one particular software. So going back to the very early days, that was Reckon Accounts or the old QuickBooks Desktop. And then I did dabble in MYOB on and off as I sort of started my business, but I've always had a specialty and a soft spot for QuickBooks Desktop going back years ago. And then as QuickBooks Online came in, I sort of steered my business towards QuickBooks Online, and that's been our specialty software for the last 4 years.
Okay, so you mentioned dabbling in MYOB. Why didn't you go with them at that point of time? Like, they would have been the market leader and sort of the incumbent in the space. Was there any particular reason why you didn't adopt them as an alternative as well?
Yeah, I guess going back historically to when I first started bookkeeping, and so I certainly didn't start bookkeeping with the intention of going into business in this field. I started bookkeeping, to assist my husband and his family's farm. And when GST came in, the Gippsland area around where the farm is was sort of targeted by reps plugging Quicken back in the day. And so we all got subsidies and that to learn how to use it, and, subsidies to buy computers and what have you. And so Quicken was the sort of segue into the platform of accounting, and then quickly escalated into QuickBooks because we outgrew Quicken. And, so the rest is sort of history.
So was that your first entry point into bookkeeping as well, was doing the books for your husband's family's farm?
Yeah, absolutely. So unless you call the early 90s when I did the Green Ledger as a manager of McDonald's.
I've used a Kalamazoo before, so I'm not sure what's worse.
Well, after a shift finished at 1 o'clock in the morning or something, and you're sitting there in the office, ciggy in hand back in those days, trying to balance the books.
It's come a long way now. It's come a long way now, hasn't it, Di?
Yeah, there's no ciggies anymore, no.
Certainly not. Certainly not. Okay, and then you've obviously gone from there to becoming specialised in this, and now you're one of the leaders of operating the QuickBooks system throughout Australia, I'd suggest. So
yeah, it is an interesting one. The people ask me, why do you specialise and things, and I also, when I talk to accountants and I say, well, we actually don't do Xero. And they usually, lift up their eyebrows and really sort of look at me as if I've got a horn growing out of my head. And I said, well, no, it's actually quite a strategic choice. It's our way of niching. And it works effectively because we can specialise in that product, and my team are great specialists in that product as well. And so we can pretty much assist all our clients across the board.
But how often do you have a client or an accounting firm referral source come to you with, well, I guess originally, not now, when they probably know that you don't do it? How many times would that have happened in the past where you've actually turned away a particular client because they're not on your specialist system?
Yeah, it does happen. What generally happens is we'll get referrals from accountants who obviously know that we're QuickBooks specialists, so that's great. But we'll also get referrals from accountants who want to move their clients off the desktop, being Reckon or MYOB. They know that we'll do a great job in doing that as well. And so that's where we sort of get that pathway happening. When we get inquiries, I suppose, direct from a SMB who is using a software that's not our preferred choice, it really depends, especially if it's a desktop. We do have that conversation with them. It's like, well, we don't do desktop accounting. I mean, we've got a handful still of legacy ones that we have, but they're usually quite large, they're enterprise level. But the otherwise, if it's a typical sort of SMB and they're on a desktop situation, we do have that discussion with them and really try to ascertain as to whether they're open to change. Can we coach them? Are they prepared to, wear some, I guess, stresses as they learn new software and things like that. And if the answer point blank is no, we're not prepared for that, then we just gently let them down and say, well, we're not the right bookkeepers for you, and there's plenty of other people out there that can assist you.
I was going to say on that, do you have people that you would then refer them on to? There's bookkeepers who operate other systems, who are specialists in those particular systems, which you would then treat as a friendly bookkeeping firm to refer on to?
Yeah, it depends on how nice they were on the phone, I guess. But but it is actually getting harder to actually, refer that sort of client onto somebody, because most people I associate with are cloud-based bookkeepers.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I guess as an accounting firm, we generally can't be as specific with the software we service, because we have a number of clients come with different formats, and we try to pick and choose between sort of 2 or 3 types of software. But we would really struggle if we were just solely one particular type of software. Sure, we'd actually have a lot of efficiencies in doing that, but we wouldn't be able to service probably the breadth of clients with the amount of depth we'd want to. So most accounting firms, especially the slightly bigger ones, are generally somewhat software agnostic. They have preferred platforms, but it'd be very difficult to, have a whole firm solely on one particular software and I won't say survive, but service the amount of clients you'd want to.
Yeah, and the same argument applies to bookkeepers. And look, I've been around for a little while now, so I've got a certain level of comfort, I guess, as well. So it sort of allows a bit of picking and choosing. If I was starting out in business now, fresh as a bookkeeper, I would probably say that, without a doubt, that I'd be a cloud-based bookkeeper, but I would also be picking, from across all the platforms. So, Xero, QBO, MYOB, possibly Sage, those sort of things, because at that point, you're just still trying to find your feet, and you also generally take on every, thing that breathes. And then you're figuring out just what you do like. But at the end of the day, look, this is the other thing I always maintain too, is software is software. It's the tool to do the job. And if you know what you're doing, if you know your bookkeeping, if you know your accounting principles, then you can apply those to any software. So even though we're specialists in the QBO software, I can still pick up any other platform, and with a bit of rooting around in the background, figure out, where do I put things. So it's not about the actual software or how to do it. It is very much about understanding the processes underlying it all as well.
Yeah, but as a bookkeeper, you'd be I'd say your team would be on the tools more than you yourself at the moment.
That's right.
They're in there every day doing stuff. Whereas an accountant, we would generally take what the client or the bookkeeper's done and then refine that with some journals, ideally some good ones, which the bookkeeper won't pick up on, which we've discussed in a previous episode. I might put out $330,000 worth of materials for no reason anyway. It's a little bit less of an issue for us because we're not using it every day. So our only real requirement is it's cloud-based, because we do want to maintain sort of $20,000 worth of, CDs and stuff like that, which we need to install on different servers and machines. So our only real requirement is it's cloud. But I could see from a bookkeeping point of view that being able to create a niche and being a specialist in a particular software and knowing how to do everything every day be potentially a really important way of differentiating yourself as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've got a team, so that they've all come from a non-QBO background, because obviously the platform is still not as widely used as some of the competitors. But the unanimous sort of consensus now is, thank goodness that we do use QBO as our main platform, because we all love it, and we all can, as I said earlier, when a phone rings and it's a client that's not, and the phone's being answered by a bookkeeper not necessarily relating in that client file all the time, they can jump into the file and generally figure out what the issue is without any problems whatsoever.
And again, as an accounting firm, and I'm quite happy to take, we're roughly 60% QBO. This is not a big QuickBooks love in. We're about 60% QBO, and that's just how the cards have fallen. We used to be almost 100% Xero. So just the evolution of the different software and different clients coming on board with different needs, where we're majority QuickBooks now, but we have a whole suite of other platforms we also support, all the way down to micro businesses who sit on Wave apps. So yeah, again, it's because we're not in there every day where we probably have a slightly different approach, but I certainly respect what a bookkeeper does and how that specialization could really help a client.
Yeah, well, one of our accountants just before we started having this chat, Kane, she emailed me and she needed to extract some information out of a file that she's doing some figures on, and it's not normal sort of reporting that she needed, and so yeah, shot me an email. Can you please get these figures for me? I mean, I could have told her how to do it, but it's just as easy to generate the report for her.
Yeah.
So yeah. And that's one of the benefits of working with an accountant that you can work with closely. Is okay. Well, I'll dig that up for you, no problem whatsoever.
Yeah, and as an accountant, it's great to know 2 or 3 bookkeepers who are specialists in a particular software as well, where you can actually go, okay, for a client who's come on board and they need a new bookkeeper, or they're not comfortable doing the bookkeeping, or we certainly don't want to do the bookkeeping, that we know somebody who has that deep level of expertise in a particular software platform where we can then know that the client's going to be looked after. For an accountant, that's golden.
That's right, and that's the same way as well. Like, I mean, this particular accountant, she recognised we've been working together for years. So I used to be her Reckon go-to, and now I'm her QBO go-to. And she always says that she's got other bookkeepers that she uses for different platforms. So she's got her specialties for MYOB or Xero, whatever it might be, and she'll refer to those people. The same thing too is when I've got clients who need an accountant, I'll sort of say, okay, well, depending on, or clearly whatever platform, well, this particular accounting firm or this couple of accounting firms, well, they, use QBO a lot, or these ones are a Xero specialist or whatever it might be. So the same sort of backwards, principle applies. Is we'll talk to our clients about accounting firms that specialise or prefer a particular platform over another one.
Yeah, that's why building your professional network with other accountants and bookkeepers is important. Like, no one has expertise in every particular software. Nobody has expertise in every particular area of tax. So it's really important to be able to build that relationship with different professionals, and then not be scared to refer the work across, even if you're not going to get anything out of it, just that the client's going to get the best result at the end of the day. Yeah,
absolutely.
So it's something I've been looking at the last couple of days. We've got a client who wants to set up a deductible gift recipient fund. I haven't done it in the last 5 years, so I'm going to search within my network to find somebody who can do that for my particular client. I'm happy to refer that on at a fee for service.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the same. With us, if there's some requirement that's just way above our heads, then I reach into my network too, and hey, I think this is something for you, because we don't do NetSuite. We don't do those sort of big ERPs, and sometimes we get inquiries that require that sort of higher end program.
How often do they come in, those sort of inquiries?
Not too frequently.
Is it becoming more common?
Yeah. No, I don't. I mean, they probably don't target necessarily people like us. I don't know, but it's more. It's the other side of it is actually interesting too. Is someone might be on a platform, a current cloud-based platform, and they come to us and they basically need help. And one of the things I'll identify is, well, one of your issues is that you've got whatever accounting package, and you've got all these other add-ons and all this sort of stuff, and nothing's talking to each other. And this is when we sort of go, okay, well, I think it's time that you might have to look at something a little bit bigger and bolder. And that's when those referrals sort of happen. So somewhat reluctant, from the SMBs, like, oh, we thought we could all work, but yeah, sometimes it just doesn't.
That's funny you mentioned that. I remember sitting at a conference, and I think it was the CFO of Kogan was talking about how they started Kogan, how they'd operated on one of the cloud-based softwares with an Excel spreadsheet up until the time they had 100 million worth of revenue. So the software out there now can actually do a significant amount of things off the shelf.
Wow. Yeah, that is insane. But you're absolutely right, and that's the thing. The strength of the base accounting platforms are just getting stronger and stronger, I think. So there are more and more functionalities being built into them, and they'll just go through leaps and bounds in the future.
Yeah, so again, having that expertise in a particular software would enable a bookkeeper and accountant to assist a business to run a really significant business on software which is maybe $50, $60, $100 a month, as opposed to needing ERP or
Thousands.
NetSuite sort of
Yeah,
system.
exactly. So if you can extract, the term I've used before, if we can make the program sing, then we'll make it sing,
We've
because
almost,
that's
we've almost come full circle with the Queenscliff Music Festival.
yes. You go. Knew there'd be a segue in there somewhere, but no, absolutely. And look, it's one of the things that when I talk to other bookkeepers as well is, you don't have to be the jack of all softwares, because it really is not something that you feel that you should have to do. And I know plenty of bookkeepers out there that feel that they do need to be across all platforms, and they get frustrated because there's certain ones that they don't like and they're not comfortable with or whatever, and they're just not as efficient, I guess, as you are in a platform that you really enjoy using. And my response to that is, well, why give yourself the stress?
Yeah, is it again not wanting to turn down particular clients or clients at all if you want X fee that you just can't say no?
Yeah, that part of that is very much the case.
But the downside of that is if you're doing it inefficiently, you might make more fees, but your profit on those particular fees is going to be less in an area where you're really specialised in or software that you're really specialised in.
Yeah, well, that's right. Exactly. No, I totally agree with that one too. And it all becomes in part of the maturity of the business, I think, too, as you become more mature in knowing what you're aiming for, and in growing your business, and being comfortable, and identifying your ideal clients. It just gets easier and easier to make those decisions.
As accountancy online, when we get an inquiry and somebody goes, "Oh, that desktop," I've gone, "Well, we're accountancy online. Like we're in the name. We deal with online platforms, so we can't really help you, but we're happy to refer you to 2 or 3 other accountants, and you can take
Yep.
a pick off."
But I am on the phone to you now. Isn't that online?
Well, it's a Zoom video call, so it's online in some format. We're not talking through it. I haven't got the analog phone out and dialed your number with a pencil, so.
Well, that's what some people think. Oh, yeah, well, I'm talking to you. Therefore, that's what the online aspect is, isn't it?
Oh, maybe I'll have to rebrand.
So Kane, you said earlier that you were predominantly Xero based back in the day. How long ago did you actually start accountancy online?
Yeah, it was around 5 years ago. So back then there wasn't much choice with regards to cloud platforms, and our only real requirement was that we were going to be on the cloud so we could service clients in a different or more proactive way than traditional accounting firms. So back then there was only literally Xero to choose from. I think Reckon Online had that sort of faux cloud, which was really clunky and worked through an applet, and MYOB have only just moved to the cloud 5 years later. So yeah, it was Xero or nothing back then. But over the last 5 years, the development in a lot of the other cloud-based software means that A, there's more options for clients out there, and B, it's enabled us to have clients on different platforms.
So even those little micros you said, what are you using? Wave or something, was it?
Yeah, Wave Apps. Wave Apps is great. I always say to clients, if you just starting out, do 2 things: set up a separate bank account, put aside a percentage of tax, and then track everything through Wave Apps. And you can't really go too far wrong come year end. You're not going to get a shock with regards to tax. You'll have really good records. You can sync a bank account to it, and it's free. Sure, you're going to get spammed with ads and stuff like that, but it's no different to everyone now. The amount of spam we all receive every day, what's another piece of spam when you can get something for free?
And then at what point do you actually then suggest to your clients that they move off the free Wave app onto something that's a paid platform?
These are traditionally sort of sole traders. So anytime they then think about putting on a staff member to help what they do, anytime they need something a bit e-commercey or anything where it gets a little bit more complex than what you can do on that, because it is literally sort of invoicing and receiving money and just matching things off. So much more than that, you really have to move off that platform.
Was it the self-employed app by Intuit that doesn't cut it for you?
I think that's great, but again, that's only been a recent sort of thing in the last 12 months. So we're getting a bit of cut through on clients moving across into that now. But before that, there was really sort of nothing in that space. The self-employed apps is great. It just operate everything on your mobile phone as opposed to a web browser, which Wave Apps has to. So yeah, that's probably another trigger point is if you're on the road, instead of having to be on your desktop, you can move to a QuickBooks or something like that by doing things on your phone.
Because it's also got the mileage calculator too, so you can track your mileage on your car as you're zooming along with your phone.
Yeah, because everyone does a logbook now because they have to do a logbook. If you're listening, taxpayers, do a logbook. You can't just put 5,000 Ks there like some of you try to do. If you're doing your own tax, you'll get pulled up.
That is something that the ATO are targeting.
With good reason. It's an area where people, well, how many Ks you done? 5,000. Well, do you have a logbook? No. Do you have a reasonable sort of diary on how you've done that? Yes. Can you provide it? No. Sorry, no deduction. Like it's just back and forth. And again, that's wasted time because the ATO has been pretty forward in all the media saying you need X to be able to claim that. So something like a QuickBooks self-employed app is a really good way of doing it without actually having to do much.
So you're saying that it's not so easy to fudge a logbook?
Well, no, it probably is, but yeah, I said our clients certainly don't. No logbook, no deduction, unfortunately, or no reasonable
Okay.
basis anyway.
There you go.
I was on a CPA panel with the Deputy Commissioner a couple of weeks ago, and he point blank said that's an area they're looking at.
Absolutely. And, what do we say? There's an app for that.
There's an app for that. Indeed, indeed. And speaking of apps, if you're listening out there, do subscribe on iTunes to our podcast, Bookie and the Beano, because that's all for today on Bookie and the Beano. We'll be back soon with another episode. So until then, stay accurate.
Bye.